You crush the turn in your breaststroke race, push off with everything you got, but your competitor is already 2 strokes ahead of you. Every single wall. And it's frustrating you. What are they doing that you're not? And in this video, you'll find out. Because if your breaststroke pullout is holding you back, I'm going to show you exactly how to turn it into your biggest weapon. And make sure you stay with me to the end, because I'll show you how to actually train your pullouts, starting today. We've all been there, watching someone else glide ahead effortlessly while we're stuck trailing behind, wondering what is the secret. Because on paper, breaststroke pullout is pretty simple, right? You glide, do the one allowed dolphin kick, and then pull with all your power. And it might get frustrating to figure out what you can improve. But here's the good news. It can be improved by understanding the basic skills and techniques required. And especially in short course, a better pullout doesn't just shave seconds off your time. It helps you swim with less effort too. And if you're serious about improving every aspect of your swimming, not just pullouts, I've created a free ebook that breaks down the core principles of fast, intelligent training across every stroke and distances. Download it now from the link in the description. But right now, let's zero in on the focus of this video, your breaststroke pullout. And in this video, I'll walk you through every critical element of the pullout. The glide, the whip-fast dolphin kick, the arm pull, the arm recovery, and the kick out to break to the surface, covering the basics, the intricacies, and how to combine them together into a seamless full performance. So stick with me to the end and I'll show you how to train every phase. Step by step, you'll know how to do it better than anyone else in the pool. So if you're ready to start dominating every wall, let's dive into the first step, mastering your glide. We'll start with what seems simple, the glide. Because that's exactly why most swimmers overlook it. Usually pushing off the wall in a tight streamline is one of the first skills taught in Learn to Swim programs, which is also one of the reasons why swimmers very often are not paying enough attention to it. They think they know how to do it, and going back to the basics seems like taking steps backwards. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is most likely a lot you can improve, starting on how you push off the wall. But that's its own topic, and today we're focusing on what happens after you left the wall in a turn or the moment you are fully submerged after entering the water after a start. And to glide fast, your body must be as straight as possible. And that might sound obvious, but almost no one gets it right. For many swimmers, the maximal jump of a push-off or the bending of the body when entering the water after a start kinda encourages overextension of your hips and disengagements of your core muscles, which causes the legs to start rising towards the surface while simultaneously letting the arms slightly point towards the bottom. But to cut through the water during this passive gliding phase, you should aim to form a straight line through your body, which requires you to tilt your pelvis under you posteriorly while simultaneously extending the thoracic spine. So think of your body like a rigid torpedo. Hips are tucked under, the chest is proud, and arms are locked forward. And this move does require some flexibility and body control. And if you can't comfortably get into this position on land, it is highly unlikely you will reach this in the water. And here's a good test whether you have to train this mobility skill. Lie on the floor in a streamline position, extending the arms overhead to the ground. And you can probably start to feel how the lower back forms an arc to accommodate this. Now, while keeping the arms in contact with the ground, turn your pelvis posteriorly so that your lower back gets glued to the ground. And finally, gently lift your straight legs about 1 centimeter up from the ground. And this approximates the position in the water you want to strive towards to, and the needed body tone you need to maintain for a straight body line during the glide in order to fight against the buoyancy of the water. So pause this video and try it now. Can you comfortably A, get into this position, and B, hold this position for at least 5 to 10 seconds? And if not, don't worry, you just have some work to do. First, get your body capable of performing the move through intelligent dryland exercises to teach your posterior pelvic tilt control and thoracic spine mobility. And as you improve your control and flexibility, train these passive streamlines in the pool. And these are easy enough to figure out if you're improving. Push off from the wall or jump from a starting block and glide freely. When you pop up, make a mental note of the distance and then aim to top that on every successive repetition. Week by week, aim to add more and more distance you can cover without any movements. And while repeating these gliding practices, you will pretty soon figure out that the deeper you go, the longer you can glide. And this is the second major factor you can improve in the passive glide phase of your pullout, which is finding the optimal depth for your glide and pullout. You should angle your body slightly downward and not straight forward, maybe about 15 to 20 degrees, because the drag coefficient is lower the deeper you go, which means you will go faster with the same momentum you created from the wall. And then during the turn, you also avoid colliding with your own wave that you dragged with you while swimming into the wall. And the same principle also applies in the start, but partly for different reasons, as you want to change the angle you dive in as little as possible. Because changing the trajectory of the start, let's say from 40 degrees to 0 degrees, would leak a lot of velocity. However, you do need to convert a little bit to avoid going too deep and possibly crashing to the bottom. Now, the obvious question is, how deep should I go? And the honest answer is that you should go to the depth that allows you the fastest travel to 7 to 8 meters. But it is probably unrealistic to time that for a lot of you. So as a general rule, something between 1.2 and 1.8 meters is usually the sweet spot. Now, if you have a pool that is less than 1.2 meters deep, you won't be able to train this phase optimally. But you can still get better by maximizing the depth available to effectively perform the next, often misunderstood phase of the pullout, the dolphin kick. And while there are multiple styles to perform the dolphin kick and arm pull in relation to each other, we will only go through the most optimal way, which is doing the dolphin kick in an isolated fashion while fully streamlined and starting the pull only after the completion of the dolphin kick. This helps you to preserve velocity and minimize drag, because it is much better to try to maintain the velocity of the body with as many separated movements rather than trying to maximize the power production by performing the dolphin kick at the same time as the arm pull. And yes, I understand the resultant force impulse is higher, but produced for a smaller length of time when compared to the velocity maintaining dolphin kick and arm pull done separately. Not to mention the drag producing acrobatic swimmers usually get when they're trying to time the dolphin kick with the pull. While it can be done, I have rarely seen it to be faster than the style I am describing you in this video. So now, first we have to define the goal of the dolphin kick. And as mentioned, it is to keep the velocity from dropping, as after the push off or start, you are gliding faster than any other part of the pull length. If you break your streamline too early with the dolphin kick or use exaggeratedly big movements, your velocity will drop. And any acceleration you can gain from the leg kick cannot counter the speed loss experienced just before the kick. And that is why the first step is to learn how to feel at what point in the passive glide your velocity starts to drop, and it is appropriate to try and extend the speed with the dolphin kick. We will go through the general rules, but again, the easiest way to figure this out is to have a friend time you to 7, 8 or maybe 9 meters and perform the dolphin kick at different times after the push-off. After a few trials, you will objectively figure out what is the fastest way for you, but this might be inaccessible for many. So as a general rule, somewhere from 1.2 to 2.2 seconds seems to be the sweet spot for most swimmers. Weaker gliders should try to extend their speed earlier by kicking, while if you have a powerful push-off that allows you to glide a little further with speed, then it only makes sense to extend this free ride a little longer. And as we talked about, your velocity will go down as you start preparing yourself to kick with the legs, since first your legs must load upwards, and to make this happen, you have to leverage the upper body up as well. It should feel like you're gathering elastic energy to all the tissues in front of the body. However, while making your body bend like a banana allows you to have a larger kick, the body shape itself causes so much drag that in some cases your velocity might drop close to zero just before the kick. And that's why, as a general rule, the less you can bend the body, the better. Some bend will happen because you do have to lift the feet higher than your pelvis. And this lift has to be performed with straight legs to allow the start of the propulsive phase of the kick by bending the knees downwards while your feet stay up. And when the knees have traveled down in relation to the feet and created about 110 to 140 degree angle in your knees, you have exposed the top part of your feet backwards. And as you shoot the feet downward, the pressure of the water bends the ankles to push directly backwards in the water, thrusting you forward. So the power comes from bending your knees. The reason for undulation is just to leverage your legs into the right place to expose the feet to push backwards. Now, the upper body was loaded upward, and as you started kicking downward with the feet, in order to produce more power, you needed to leverage the upper body down a bit. But at the moment that your feet have produced their thrust forward, you should immediately bend the upper body back in line, or even slightly up in relation to your hips. And this causes the legs to respond with an explosive up kick, which most likely is not propulsive, but in any case shoots the legs up and back into a streamline. Even though the amplitude of the kick is always a compromise between avoiding drag and maximizing the propulsion, in general it is almost always better to keep the kick tight and fast, because again, the goal is to maintain velocity and not to create new speed. However, if you have the ability to produce large amounts of power with that one single dolphin kick, be my guest and play around with the size of it. But in 95% of the cases I have seen, the way forward is through making the kick more compact. And for many, this feels too little work, and they struggle to control the urge of kicking big, as it feels powerful to bend the body, let the velocity go down to almost zero, and then get this massive shoot forward with a forceful big kick. But repeating it once more, the idea is to maintain velocity and not to create more. And after the completion of the dolphin kick, you are still in your tight streamline, body angled straight forward or slightly upwards. And it takes about 2 to 3 tenths of a second before you can feel the slight boost of speed forward. And you should wait in the streamline to take advantage of it, and only then start the pull part of the pullout. And during that slight gap between the dolphin kick and the pull, actively lengthen yourself, loading the arms forward so you have the ability to pull for the absolute longest distance. And at its best, it feels like you're kicking your arms forward into the pull. And the principle is exactly the same as throwing a medicine ball overhead to the ground in the exercise commonly called med ball slams. And there's a certain rhythm it is done to maximize power. And now listen closely. Actively imagining yourself doing med ball slams, because this rhythm cue might transform your pullouts. As you lift the ball overhead to maximize the power, you simultaneously get on your tippy toes while extending the body upwards. And there's the rhythm to it. If you come up and throw the ball immediately, you will lose some power. If you wait too long with the body extended, you lose some power again. But if you time it just right and feel how the energy from the body extending up strengthens the throw, you nailed it. And this timing really matters. And similarly in the pullout, it is the dolphin kick that lengthens the body for the pull, and there is a right rhythm to the kick, extension, pull sequence. And the best way to feel it is to just explore what rhythm makes the start of the pull feel strongest. And this can quite easily be accomplished by intentionally doing the rhythm wrong at first. Try to kick and start the pull simultaneously, and you will feel how the early part of the pull catch just rips the water. And while waiting for too long after the dolphin kick can make the pull feel stronger, it is because you already slowed down considerably after the kick, and now you have to re-accelerate again and you feel stronger due to that. But if you time it right, you'll immediately feel that acceleration forward. And when you nail it, trust me, you will feel the difference. Because your goal isn't just to pull hard, it is to pull at the right moment with the right shape to ride the velocity wave. And once you have found the from dolphin kick to pull rhythm, the next part is to figure out how to open your arms. And as a basic guideline, the less you can open them up, the longer active range of the pull you will accomplish. However, there is an ideal upper arm path for the maximal power production. And if you have any experience in strength training, it's kinda easy to recognize it if you hang up on a pull-up bar, or just grab a lat pull-down handle or row for that matter. It is easy to recognize the grip width that allows you the most strength. The upper arms are a bit wider than shoulders, and your arms and upper torso create a shape that looks like the letter V. In this position, you have the best leverage to use the biggest muscles of your body, your lats, your pecs, and the long heads of your tricep to produce force. And this is exactly the same width from which you should start your pullouts as well. So after the dolphin kick and reach forward of the arm, start opening your palms directly to the sides, and if your flexibility allows, maybe slightly upwards, sensing with the palms a place for to set your anchor by whirling your hands from facing sideways into facing directly backwards or even slightly inwards. At the same time, you start bending the elbows, aiming to point the forearm surfaces backward as well. And once you reach this position, it is time to unleash all the power you have available in your upper body and pull with all your might using shoulder extension and very slight adduction of your arm. And if you nail the beginning part of your pull out, you are probably 90% there. Yes, at the end of the pull motion, once the active range of the lats is used up, meaning that your upper arms don't have any more room to extend unless they would go past your sides, you do need to perform the final push by extending the elbows fully. But in most cases, this kind of comes naturally to swimmers as long as they are consciously trying to accelerate the pull all the way through under the body. Where the hand should end up if you are just aiming to pull straight back. The natural movement of the upper arms dictate that while the arms are a bit wider than shoulder width apart in the beginning, they move inward during the pull. And once you have completed the most powerfully accelerated pull of all time, you still need one more thing to finish off this phase, and that is the shoulder elevation. You see, pulling the arms down during the pull exposes your head, traps, and shoulders to the frontal drag, and in an effort to minimize this, the moment your hands extend under you, you should actively crunch your shoulders to your ears and make yourself into the shape of a torpedo again, minimizing the surface area, pushing the water in front of you, and at the same time setting you up for the next phase. But before that, let's go through some common mistakes in the pull. Other than the clear ones of pulling too narrow or too wide, which is probably the most common problem, there are also two subtle mistakes seen in most swimmers around the world. First, in an effort to maximize the power, swimmers intuitively engage all of their anterior muscles to get even more power into the pull. And if it was all about power, this would make sense. Because if we go back to the med ball slam example, if you're allowed to flex the spine, you can throw the ball harder. But in the water, not only do you increase the frontal drag multifold, you also inherently project your line downwards, which makes it impossible to break out through the surface in the next phase of the pullout, but also lifts your lower body out of the straight line you are aiming to hold. And again, this adds additional drag. So instead, you should learn how to isolate the pull to the right muscles and even slightly suggest with your body a small upward trajectory. This kind of change in the path of the body comes naturally if the body is held straight during the pull, because you cannot avoid introducing a slight vertical force in the beginning of your pull. And this slight change into an upward gliding angle is actually a good thing, because it then allows you to maintain a straighter line towards the surface as we start the recovery phase of the arms. And another common mistake of the pullout is not bending the elbows enough during the initial catch, which causes us to push the body downwards at the end of the pull. Because if your arms are not shaped to push backward under the body at the end of the pull, you end up pressing the water upwards to the sides of the body. And the body line predictably angles itself downward in response to that upward force. A quite useful awareness type of exercise is to do wall muscle ups, opening the arms to the mechanically strongest position and then pulling yourself up until you hold your body at the side of the pool with your arms. A little leg kick or even a push off from the bottom is okay, as long as you can actively track how your body is pulled or pushed out of the pool. And you will quite naturally find the most mechanically advanced angles and can't help yourself not to push straight downwards to the ground to get yourself up. While the movement is different, the exercise should give you a pretty good feeling on the most efficient arm path for your pullout. Okay, if your brain's full right now, that's normal. We've covered a lot, but the next two phases are where most swimmers either hold their speed or lose it all. So let's keep going, and please remember you can pause and reflect whenever you want. So now you should have your arms by your sides and slightly under you. Shoulders scrunched to your ears and your straight body line moving directly forward or slightly upward, and it's time to perform the final phase of arm recovery and a kick out to the surface, which should start immediately after you feel the surge in velocity after the pull. And any unnecessary lag from the pull transitioning to the arm recovery means more time spent in deceleration, as the arms down shape of the body is not really conducive for maintaining speed. And while all the other phases are important, I can't really exaggerate how important this last phase is for your end results. Because how you maintain your velocity from underwater to overwater swimming is the place where people leak the most velocity. Not only dropping their speed in an absolute sense, but setting themselves to swim slower on top as well. You see, the faster the velocity you start swimming your length, the faster the whole length will be, since everybody will slow down stroke after stroke until they reach a velocity that can be maintained without the help of momentum from the wall. The faster your speed is during the first stroke, and assuming the same rate of deceleration, you can extend the slowing down process. So start fast and then stay fast. It's that simple. So let me say this very clearly. Slow or sloppy recovery can erase every gain you made from a perfect glide, dolphin kick, and pull. But while there is no way of avoiding slowing down during the arm recovery, we want to minimize it, and this is how you do it. There are multiple different ways of recovering your arms from under the body back to the front, as long as you keep these three things in mind. Number one, the hands and forearms should be kept in contact with the body for as long as possible while they're moved forward. Any separation and you will end up pushing yourself backwards. Number two, similarly, the upper arms should stay in contact with your sides, again as long as possible, as opening the elbows to the sides will cause the frontal surface to double and basically stop you from progressing forward. And third, after the hands can no longer be held tightly against your body, the fingers and the hands and the forearms should be pointed directly forward, pushing them to the front like a blade of a knife. Praying your hands through the water will again mean that you are actively pushing yourself backwards. Now, the simplest way to obey these principles and recover the arms is to overlap the hands in the beginning of the movement and recover the arms by crossing them over each other under the body, while tightly holding your upper arms pressed to the sides. And once you see, and I do mean see with your eyes, the hands passing your face, you push them straight forward, fully parallel with the surface of the water. At first, This movement will require some conscious effort, but over time you will learn how to do it faster, and that is our goal. Any extra time spent recovering the arms not only means that you spend more time in this hydrodynamically inefficient position, exposing your head and shoulders to the flowing water and the hands moving into the opposite direction you want to go, essentially again pressing yourself backwards. Now, this is another compromise. Too cautious and meticulous movements of the hands, while maybe perfect, might take more time. And a little bit more carefree movement might allow you to get the hands in front faster. And this is a dealer's choice. In an optimal world, you would have perfect mechanics done at a lightning fast speed. But this might be impossible. That's why a little leeway is allowed as long as the arms move fast. Okay. Let's talk about the kick out, the part of the pullout where all your hard work either explodes to the surface or fizzles out. This is where you integrate the breaststroke leg kick into the arm recovery to launch yourself into that first stroke with maximum momentum. And the first rule is that however you perform the rhythm between the arms and legs, the kick must maximally accelerate your body prior taking that first cycle of breast on the surface. And usually the simplest and most effective way is to first move the arms overhead while the legs stay in streamline behind you, and then kick the streamlined upper body forward to the surface. The perfect timing is exactly similar to over-the-water breaststroke. 1, then 2. Arms first, kick second, never together. While your hands are moving from underneath the face forward into a streamline, you should initiate the recovery part of your kick, bending the knees and hips with the same velocity as you are recovering the arms. And as the arms snap into a streamline, you start producing propulsion backwards with the legs. And yes, this means that the legs stay completely straight until the hands pass your shoulders in the arm recovery under your body. And this rhythm is usually a struggle to learn, because it is tempting to move the limbs simultaneously, meaning moving the arms forward and pulling the heels towards the hips at the same time. But introducing these two drag-producing movements at the same time almost guarantees that your velocity will drop down to 0, and then you have to accelerate your speed fully up with the kick. It is much better to let the velocity go down a bit with the isolated arm recovery and then be relatively streamlined from the upper body as the legs start moving. Now, your velocity will drop some, but not to 0, and thus your speed when you arrive at the surface will be much higher. Other than the timing of the kick, there is no difference in the breast kick in the pull-out kick-out than normal breaststroke kicking. Recovering the legs in the shadow of the body, meaning your legs stay hidden behind your shoulders, not flaring out to the sides or under you, while aiming to rotate the thighs inward, exposing the inner shins and feet to press directly backwards and keeping the thighs relatively close and stationary during the force production, while accelerating the kick ballistically until the legs meet behind the body. And once that final kick snaps shut behind you, there's only one thing left: breaking through the surface with purpose. And if you time the breakout right, next kick over the water feels like a natural extension of the kick-out kick. And if we talk about the breakout timing, the optimal way would be to arrive to the surface just ever so slightly angled upwards and feel the exact same rhythm from the kick-out kick to your first breaststroke pull as you do in your breaststroke following it. In essence, you're kicking the arms forward into the pull, as any extra passive glide under the water will slow you down. But if you had to choose between some extra glide to reach the surface and starting the first stroke too soon after the kick-out kick, choose the slight extra glide, as whipping the arms open while you are still kicking will both reduce the amount of velocity you gain from the kick and stop you from pulling efficiently. Now, if you feel like you're busting out of the water and launching that first stroke with power, you're probably golden. And in any case, it is very likely you will hardly ever produce a perfect breakout or even repeat similar ones within a race. You need to learn how to deal with the different depths and so on. And this is why you need to rehearse the pullout relentlessly. First as isolated parts, but eventually you do need engaged repetitions after repetitions of the whole thing. So now you've seen it all. The mechanics, the rhythm, the timing, but here's the truth. Knowledge is in transformation. You don't get faster just by understanding the pullout. You get faster by training it, systematically, intentionally, and with precision. So how do you actually do that? Let's break it down. In the next section, I'll walk you through how to train each piece of the pullout. The glide, the dolphin kick, the pull, the arm recovery, the kick out, and the breakout. And most importantly, how to stitch them together into a seamless, explosive sequence. So stay locked in, because this is where things go from theory, I guess, to speed. So first, we will delve into training your passive glide. And passive is in air quotes because it isn't really passive, as we hopefully remember that after the push-off, we must actively hold our body in a straight line, which does require us to manage buoyancy, actively tilting our pelvis posteriorly, and in general shape our body to look like a torpedo. Now, the training of it is pretty simple. Just do glides in the pool, and in a sense, every time you jump into the pool or push off during your practice, you have the option of training your streamline to be more effective. Or on the other hand, to reinforce bad gliding habits. But to really level it up, you'll need focused, isolated practice. The best results come when you can do multiple glides to 7 to 9 meters, get timed, and treat each attempt as mini problem to solve. If getting a time is impossible, the length you can accomplish with each passive glide is a good substitution. Not a perfect one, because there are always ways to cheat, like diving too deep. But if you can keep yourself in check, adding a meter to your submerged passive glide ability will most likely mean you have improved your streamlining. Now, building the ability to hold that streamline is done on dry land. And if you lack the mobility, then you should work on that. And nothing is as effective as hanging. Yes, hanging. Different hangs on a pull-up bar can open up your shoulders and spine faster than most mobility drills. And as a general rule, if you can't get your arms overhead while keeping the hips under you, try to accumulate 3 to 5 minutes of different hangs every day for the next 4 weeks. And for 90% of you, this will resolve the deficiency in shoulder and spinal mobility. Other than that, simple pelvic control exercises, either lying down or against the wall, can be done, which the absolute best one is the lying streamline isometric leg lift, which we briefly touch on the section about the glide. As you progress, you can also do isometric holds in a streamline against the wall, and as you advance, try incorporating standing streamlines with some isometric holds against resistance bands. Hold your tight position and resist the pull of the elastic band looped around you. Now that your glide is dialed in, we reach the next critical checkpoint, because even the best streamline in the world only lasts so long. Eventually, your velocity drops, and that's exactly when the dolphin kick needs to take over. And while the mechanics of the pull-out dolphin kick are somewhat similar to the fifth stroke of underwater dolphins done in other strokes, there is a big difference between doing cyclical kicks where you need to maintain efficiency throughout the distance you travel underwater, and harnessing as much power into one repetition of the kick as in the pull-out dolphin kick. And that's why training your underwater dolphins doesn't really benefit your pull-out dolphin kick after the beginner stage. And in general, we can divide the isolated practice into 2 categories: learning the skill and improving the explosiveness. Both can be trained separately and together with these exercises. First, one of the most effective ways of getting more reps done in a shorter period of time is to train the dolphin kick vertically by pushing off the bottom of the pool. A diving well or a pool that is at least 3 meters deep would be ideal, but you can rehearse the dolphin kick vertically in a shallower pool as well, by just toning down how hard you push off the bottom. So set yourself to the bottom of the pool, push off towards the surface like you would from a wall, and if the pool depth allows it, glide for a split second and perform your kick. When you break out through the surface, you get instant feedback whether you were able to hold your line. If you bend too much anteriorly, you will fall on your face, and if you overcorrected to the backside, you will fall backwards. And if you nailed the upper body movements, you will strike through the water like a knife. Now, if you always train in the same pool, you can approximate your development by how high from the water you are able to kick yourself. If you barely reach the surface, there is a high chance your dolphin kick acted as a retarder for your velocity. Now, if you get your chest out, you probably did good, and if you can show your navel or even hips to the bystanders, you can probably stop this form of training. You have mastered it. And of course, you can do similar isolated practice pushing off the wall as well. Again, judging how well you perform the kick by timing yourself to 7, 8 or 9 meters, which would be the preferable choice. But judging the length, you can travel with the glide, and dolphin kick together is an option too. But like the glide, there are multiple ways to figure out how to go longer, and that is not really our goal. Our main objective is to maintain the velocity of the push-off and glide. Also, I would suggest that you do multiple pull-out dolphins within one glide, which means that you push off from the wall or start from the blocks and do your normal dolphin kick and feel how the speed is extended again for anywhere from 1 to 1.5 seconds. Then load up another one and kick hard. Feel the surge and repeat once or twice more. Every rep gives you an opportunity to work on your angles and your explosiveness. And if you have access to resistive equipment, I would from time to time use them. The negative being that unless you are careful, you might end up unintentionally increasing the amplitude of the kick. As the resistance drops your gliding velocity, and a bigger kick might work in that context. And that is why keep the resistance quite manageable and always do some unresisted reps after resisted work. And as an extra bonus exercise, you could play around with supramaximal assisted work. However, for this you do require a training partner who can tow you with either a stretch cord or a rope of some kind. If this is beyond your current setup, no stress. Just focus on the resisted and unresisted reps first. However, this assisted speed, which now is faster than you can glide from your own push-off or start, allows you to really feel how the loading of the body prior to the down kick might be slowing you down. And thus, this might be the most effective way to learn both the mechanics and how to condense the power into a small kick. But most likely you won't do it often, as the accessibility and setup takes too much time. However, there is a way to get almost the same effect by pulling a short stretch cord until it's tight and diving under the water and letting the cord pull you back to the wall. And if you were able to pull it tight enough, you do get a moment during the glide where you can rehearse the dolphin kick at a higher than push-off velocity. Okay, your glide is sharp, your dolphin kick is explosive, and you're carrying velocity through the water. It is time to speed up through the pool. And you already know how to do it. Now let's make sure you know how to train it. And if there ever is a point of maximal aggression in the pool, it is during the pull of a breaststroke pullout. And it should be trained accordingly for maximum explosiveness. And of course, all these exercises can also be used for learning the skill, but as soon as you learn it, start applying maximal acceleration of the arms from the start to the finish of the pull. And here's how to turn your pull from average to unstoppable. No fancy gear required. First up, vertical pullouts pushing off from the bottom of the pool. Now, unless you have a pool that is very deep, like a diving well, you can't really push off and integrate the pull in it. But if you have access to one, just follow the push off with the dolphin kick and the pull, and aim to pop up higher and higher out of the water with the force of your pull. But for most pull situations, we would have to limit ourselves doing this from a kind of a kneeling start. So go down to the bottom, kneel down, put the arms overhead, catch the water and pull yourself upwards, just like you would in a pullout. Now, it's okay to slightly help by extending your legs, but just make sure that you keep the leg health approximately the same from trial to trial, so you can again assess your performance by how high from the water you are able to rise with the power of your pull. And then of course, similar to the dolphin kick, we can just isolate the from legs to the upper body rhythm by doing push-off with just the dolphin kick and pull-out, and gauge either our time to about 10 meters or the distance we are able to travel with this sequence. But here is where a simple stretch cord shines. If you hook yourself in a cord and push off, there is minimal tension as you are gliding and performing the dolphin kick. But traveling away from the wall where the cord is tied into, the tension starts to grow exponentially. And throughout the pull, you get ever-growing resistance that pretty much matches the force curve of the movement. Less resistance in the beginning and more in the end as you are in a mechanically stronger position. This forces you to accelerate all the way through the motion, that is, if you want to go forward, and exaggerating the needed acceleration, which is exactly what we want. And that is why I would put the stretch cord resisted pullout as the most useful exercise towards strengthening your pull. And now we are flying through the water, and it's time to make sure we slow down minimally after the pull by zeroing in on how to train the arm recovery. And this is the most overlooked phase of the pullout, and maybe the one where people lose the most speed, and training it usually takes the most amount of time to perfect. But luckily, there is one drill that will teach you exactly how to do it. And I'm telling you, the drill teaches you even if you are not trying to change anything. And I am talking about the hands down, push off and recovery drill. It can be done from the bottom of the pool, which would allow you to get more reps in shorter time, but using a wall works fine as well. You then just have to float back to the wall after each repetition. So put your hands down by your side and push off with all your might from the wall. And this is the exact position you end up after the pull. And now feel how the water resists you in this high drag posture. And you guessed it, try to recover your arms back to the front with minimal velocity loss. And I can almost guarantee you that the first time you try it, you will either completely stop or go backwards, and that's the built-in feedback system working. And now, armed with the technical knowledge of keeping your elbows glued to your sides and crossing over while touching your body with your hands, figure out a way to get the arms recovered to the front with minimal speed loss. Every attempt rewires your technique. Even small wins here can translate to massive gains in race day. And yes, you can time this exercise to 5, 6 or 7 meters, but you really don't have to. The speed loss is so apparent that any improvement will be immediately felt. At first, aim to figure out the path of least resistance for your arms back to the front, and then progressively speed the movement of the hands up. Your job here isn't to be perfect. Each attempt teaches your nervous system something new, and pretty soon you will find a similar acceleration pattern that all the other movements in the water have, and start feeling how the arms shoot overhead and take your body forward with them. Once your arms slice forward like a knife without dragging your speed down, it's time to finish the job with the grand finale, transferring all that underwater power to your surface speed. So let's train your kick out and breakout so you don't just glide to the surface, you launch into your first stroke with dominance. Now we shift from holding velocity to accelerating into your swim. First, rehearse a velocity maintaining breaststroke kick by simply pushing off from the wall in a streamline and accelerating to the surface with one kick. Sensing what size kick and weight after the legs push you forward maintains the speed of your first breaststroke swim cycle the best. And as we discussed before, it is not as much about learning perfect timing, but rather managing different glide lengths after your kick out effectively. Once you have figured out the best feeling for the size of your kick and have a handle on the breakout, start combining the kick to the hands down, push off and recovery drill that we just went through. Now aiming to accelerate to the surface with the kick. Pay attention to feel the separation between the arms moving overhead and the kick. As we remember, the biggest mistake is to stop completely when you recover the hand under your body while simultaneously drawing the legs under you. You should feel a slight and unavoidable loss of speed while the arms move forward, and then a huge acceleration as you get to kick. Weeks and months can be spent perfecting this rhythm because it is not easy, but this skill will separate you from the pack. And once you can break out with that clean, accelerating rhythm, it's time to bring the entire sequence together. And I would highly suggest combining the isolated training of different phases together with the full pull-out rehearsals in the same sessions. So for example, you could create a 4-week training block like this. On week 1, during the technical warm-up of each of your practices, you could spend 5 to 10 minutes working on perfecting your glide and dolphin kick in the first section, and then immediately aim to transfer those skills to your full pullout by doing 5 to 10 minutes of full pullouts with only focusing on the glide and dolphin kick. On week 2, the first section of the practice would be spent perfecting your pull, and then again going into full pullouts, emphasizing the arm pull. On week 3, the focus would be arm recovery and kick out, and again going into a full pull-out set after. And then finally on week 4, you would discard all the isolated practice and only do full pull-outs with an emphasis on breaking out at your highest speed. This way you are constantly training the full performance to become better, slowly adding more technical proficiency into the skill in a step-by-step fashion. Now, during the full pull-out practice, you should use every trick in the book. Sometimes do them pushing off, sometimes from a turn, often from starts, and use various resistance tools if you have access to them. Just remember that the whole performance takes about 4 to 6 seconds to go through, so speed and explosiveness rules, and you should train it accordingly. And now, can you imagine what could happen if you ran this 4-week block 2 or 3 times in succession? Most swimmers say they've tried everything to improve their pullout, but if we're being honest, they have not. I hardly ever see this kind of structured skill training programming applied in breaststrokers training plans, even when they realize that 100 breast on short course is at least 40% only about pullouts. So now you know what to do. So I guess just do it, as every wall is a chance to gain or lose distance, momentum, and control. The breaststroke pullout isn't just a rule-bound sequence, it's a weapon, but only if you train it that way. So now you got the blueprint, time to sharpen it, drill it, and own it. And if you're ready to take that even further with personalized guidance, custom programming, and detailed feedback tailored to your exact goals, then consider applying for my one-on-one coaching. It's open to all swimmers at any level. Whether you're chasing your first breakthrough or your next podium finish, we'll build the path together. You'll find the application link in the description box. See you at the pool and in the next video.